fans of the road trip might be saying to themselves, hey, wait a minute. Jason is so far only going to cities that he's already been to, Philadelphia and now DC. I've also officially launched the Ghost Town USA graphic. People just saw it there a moment ago. Of course, this is a picture I took 3 weeks ago when I was here in DC for the inauguration of President President Stupid Joe. And I wanted to come back, obviously, just because I'm out on the road and everything, but I wanted for people to see what's going on here. This building, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm over here by pretty close to the Capitol. I'm going to walk over there now. It is freezing this morning. And I don't know, these guys are up to something with this. Laying cable, as it were. But what I wanted people to see is this fence. This city is fenced up. Like you can't move about freely. You can't go where you want to go. People who were thinking it was a good idea for President Trump to implement martial law, that didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. And I was just, why do we want martial law? That's the army running the city, which we now have, firsthand example of right here in Washington, D.C. It's not cool. It doesn't seem fun. We have a bunch of army guys who are trained to kill people, telling you, you can't go here, you can't go there. I have a feeling even maybe crossing these cones, you'll get yelled at. But obviously this is closed. You can't go in there. And I mean, normally that's a street that you can walk along. I don't know if there's any way for me to approach the Capitol. The police like to ask you where you are going and what your business is there. And I mean, I guess they can do that now. We have martial law. The army can tell you where to go, and can arrest you if they feel like you are a problem. And this is barbed wire city. Can people see the razor wire there? A little overexposed. Let's see. There we go. That's crazy. I mean, this is heavy duty. You're not getting over that without a serious, tools or I don't know what. I think I passed the Watergate Hotel on my drive into town. It was very cool. I was actually listening to the book on tape, The Devil's Chessboard, as I was driving by the exit for Dulles International Airport, named for John Foster Dulles, brother of Allen Dulles, one of the pivotal characters in the creation of the CIA, and a super Nazi-loving weirdo who I think was pivotal in the assassination of JFK and Watergate. I'm up to the part where, I was driving by the Watergate Hotel while they were talking about the part of the book how Nixon first met Allen Dulles. I didn't know this. Nixon was in the Navy and he was reviewing some documents at some kind of missile site for the Navy, and he found Nazi documents that detailed the Foster brothers laundering money for the Nazis during World War II. That's heavy crime stuff, treason. And I guess Nixon knew about that. I think Nixon also knew that they killed JFK. Nixon was the head of something called Operation 40 under Eisenhower. I mean, a lot of people know that Nixon was the vice president under Eisenhower. And he ran this Operation 40. It was a CIA assassination operation where they basically just went around the world taking out whatever world leader was not agreeable to them and installing some, world leader who they like, sort of Elon Musk's we'll coup whoever we want attitude, which I did not like. I like the cars and solar energy and some of the things that Elon Musk is doing, but you can't claim to be into accelerating humanity with sustainable energy and then just decide to kill people so you can get their lithium or whatever you need. That's a pretty bad policy. So I think you can't go anywhere near the Capitol. I mean, this fence is just going on, and that's it. You can't get near it. And I guess they just leave this up here until enough people are sort of like, yeah, of course you can't go near the Capitol. I haven't had a chance to hear, oh, actually it probably hasn't started yet. I don't like to work too hard. Maybe they don't start until noon, but I haven't had a chance to hear any of the, I don't think my arm is long enough to even get over this fence. Nope. I haven't had a chance to hear any of the impeachment shenanigans so far today, but I have a bad feeling about the whole thing. I just don't think it's being properly addressed by Donald Trump or his lawyers. I mean, he just keeps allowing things to go too far, getting himself into a bad situation. We've asked the question a million times. Why not investigate election integrity problems in 2018 when he was the president and could have done something about it? He really waited too long. A lot of people who watch Crowdsource the Truth tell me, oh, you know, Trump is in on it. Trump is a part of the cabal. Maybe that's right. Some people hated Trump from the beginning. Some people think Trump still has a plan, that he's going to whip out, you know, some kind of something or other at the last minute and have it not be a massive disaster. I don't agree. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that my personal opinion is that Donald Trump decided to run for president because he knew what Barack Obama and all of his swampy cohorts were up to, and Hillary Clinton. And I think he wanted to try to drain the swamp, but when you sort of show up at the swamp and tell all the swamp critters you're going to drain it, I think they're not down with that. And they have a lot of things that they can do to prevent the drainage. Now, what is this? Justice for... Here, let's see, this is the type of interesting on-the-ground stuff that we don't see unless we come to D.C. Unknown cause of death, Fort Hood, March 9th, 2017, 23. And then also justice for Private Matthew Aaron Tyler Asher, suspicious suicide, December 26, 2018. Huh. It's smart that they laminated it because it's been raining and snowing and pretty bad weather out here. Now, here we see some flowers stuck in the fence. Not really sure what those are for. Maybe Sicknick? There's some questions now about Sicknick. There was testimony that, they bludgeoned him with a fire hydrant and that's how he died. But autopsy indicates no blunt force trauma, and other people are saying that he went home and then died the next day, possibly as a reaction to pepper spray or tear gas or something. But I thought if you're in the cops, they spray you with that stuff so that you can get the taste of it and kind of know what it's all about. Justice for Vanessa Guillen. Murder. Whoa. Sexual harassment by a sergeant. Damn, that is bad. So, see, there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on in the military. I reject this notion that just because somebody puts on a uniform, they automatically get our thanks and respect. You got to serve the country, the Constitution, the people, integrity and honesty. Always. You can't do it most of the time and then decide not to later, or join the army and then rape a private or sexually harass. I don't remember what that woman's rank was, but that's not a hero. That's not somebody who I thank you for raping somebody in the army. No. That's not what happens. But look at these guys now. They're forced to stand here. It's freezing. This is a terrible job. And they're just standing here doing what? There's nobody around. Nobody. Yeah, I don't think you can get near the Capitol anymore. I wonder if you're ever going to be able to do that. So, I mean, this is the major transition of, there are representatives, they work for us. No, we can't even go there and see what they're doing. This is like if you had a company and hired a bunch of people, and then they locked the door and wouldn't let you in the office so that they could do whatever they want with your resources, your money, your clients. And, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to make it better and let you back in. They're going to keep you out and make it good for them. Now, is this what they're talking about? Having permanent, this is a little oasis in the city that regular humans can't go to, and just the army and dopes like Ocasio-Cortez and Eric Swalwell are hanging out in there? This is talking about how nobody can have guns so that these guys can have guns and they can do crimes, the Congress people, and be protected by the army people with the guns? Sounds like what they're doing. There's a lot of army guys there. Can people see through the fence? I always manage to get back to the courthouse. Wow, what is that? Art, I guess, but it's also kind of like industrial junk. You know what? I forgot to check if I'm actually even live. Let me just take a quick look. Finger's not working so good given the temperature. Yes, looks like we're live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on, I guess this is technically the second day of the road trip. Philadelphia, even DC, not that far. Initially, the road trip isn't necessarily going to be about going huge distances, but I was in Virginia on the way over here, and I drove by BAE, British Aerospace. What's the E? I don't know. And then I was thinking, maybe I should go to Serco. But really, any city that I go to, there could be a lot of different places that I might visit. I do have a mission in mind at first. I'm not going to talk about it too much because obviously there's a lot of people who try to thwart me. I also want to thank all of the generous sponsors who make Crowdsource the Truth possible. This is going to be, this year, 5 years of Crowdsource the Truth. And there's no way at all that I would have been able to do this without the sponsors. And I want to talk about this for a minute because there are so many kind and generous people. And I'm saying, even if you're a $2 sponsor, some people write to me, I'm only sponsoring for $2 and blah, blah. That is a lot. And for someone to actually decide that they're going to send $2 a month, take it out of whatever else they might be doing with it, I appreciate that tremendously. And you know what? There's a lot of times that people go from $2 to $3. And that makes me feel even more important than somebody sending $100. And no offense to the people who have sent $100. I tremendously appreciate that. But when you go from $2 to $3, to me that says that this is somebody who doesn't necessarily have a lot of disposable income, but finds the information and the analysis and the types of videos that I produce valuable. And that increase of $1 just shows that, even though they might not have hundreds to send, they appreciate it and they're doing what they can. And I super appreciate every single sponsor. It's just, I'm not joking when I say I couldn't do this. There are a very limited number of people who send nasty messages, and it's always on YouTube, right? People who are sponsoring, whether it's $2, $100, whatever the amount, very often are sending just really kind messages that they appreciate what I'm doing, they appreciate the show, they enjoy it. No need to write back. Thank you, Jason, for making these shows and bringing us information from all these people. And then on YouTube, I get these sour grapes comments from people who, when we do the sponsor exclusive shows, whether it's Unseen Libya with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty, or High Dive with Lee Stranahan, or David Hawkins Discovery CSI, or John Cullen Investigates. Sometimes when we do these YouTube lead-in shows to let people know that those shows are going to begin, there'll be comments on there claiming that I'm somehow doing something unscrupulous or insensitive by keeping this information from people, and that I should do all the shows on YouTube for free. Well, there's several reasons why I don't do that. This is the Pretty Man Courthouse. You remember I've spoken with Imran Awan or sort of spoken at him outside this place. Came here for the Michael Flynn hearing, a bunch of different things. But, the people who write those comments that, oh yeah, you should just do all the videos for free. Well, first of all, there's the problem of it being very easy to get kicked off of YouTube. That is one consideration. But really the main reason why I started Patreon and Subscribestar was because it was quite clear to me that YouTube was being manipulated by social engineers. And this is a huge problem. It's funny, I think that was just a truck bouncing on a hole or something. I've developed just sort of a knack of finding these social engineers, or maybe they're finding me. But we're going to talk about Mike Lindell in a minute. And then people say, oh, why are you picking on Mike Lindell? He's the second smartest crackhead in America. He's a nice guy. He has a big cross that proves he likes Jesus. And so be nice to him. Well, I'm not picking on Mike Lindell. I wanted to share information with him that I thought was important. And he didn't want to hear it. Now, obviously, he's not obliged to listen to anything that I say. But how people react is going to affect my thoughts about them. I mean, it seems to me that somebody who has overcome a drug problem to become the CEO of a $300 million company, that's going to be somebody who has straightened themselves out and has a high degree of control over themselves now, and is not necessarily impulsive. And from the standpoint of running a company, you would think when somebody comes to you with information, whether it's ideas or whatever it might be, the CEO would be good at listening and evaluating those ideas, listening to and evaluating those ideas, not just flying off the handle and getting upset about how I got his phone number. I think a sensible and responsible and calm person would have listened to what I've had to say, and even if he found that he didn't believe me or like it, he could have ignored it later. But to just dismiss it to the point that he wouldn't even hear it doesn't seem like an effective strategy, or the type of thing that somebody who has become successful to the extent that a 300 millionaire would do. So that seems anomalous and strange. But the other thing is, a lot of people are making excuses for the guy. They're saying, oh yeah, I don't like it when people I don't know call me. What is going on with this steam here? I guess maybe this is somebody who's camping out where there is steam in order to keep warm. It's a good idea. Might leave that person alone. They seem to be having a bad day. But let's just get something straight here. I called Mike. There are databases on the internet that you can subscribe to that give you access to information that anybody can access. That's public information. Okay, so now we see what the source of all that noise was. There's a construction project going on over here. And I mean, people don't like getting called on the phone. I get it. There's a lot of stuff that happens that perhaps people don't like. But again, I didn't do anything wrong by calling him. He might not like it. I don't like it when crackhead idiots rip people off and run around making jokes out of presidential politics and calling faulty evidence proof. I don't like that. And so what I do is I call up the crackhead idiots that do that, and I don't start out by calling them crackhead idiots. I start out by saying, hey, listen, I support you, and I support the president, and I want to make sure you have all the information before you start running off half-cocked. Because what's happening now is we got a bad situation that's being made dramatically worse by people like Mike Lindell and Mary Fanning. And anybody who's listening to Mary Fanning and sharing that information. Sidney Powell as well. The whole Hammer scorecard nonsense, that is no good. That is bad information. And there's a problem going on there. I don't know the details of what that problem is, but I'm convinced something screwy is going on. And Again, I'm not picking on Mike Lindell. I called Mike Lindell because I thought I had helpful information that he would want, that could benefit him. And his reaction prompted me to just look for more answers. Why would somebody act like that? What's the story with this guy? We spoke yesterday about the patent on the fill inside his pillows. That's a very strange patent to me because, I've dealt with the patent office. I've applied for patents. I've had provisional patents and different kinds of things. And, you don't always get a patent. You don't just send them a drawing and an idea and they say, here's your patent. They take a long time to evaluate it, a long time, and usually a lot longer than, whatever that was, November to March. It could take 2 years or more. But okay, let's say that's normal, that it gets approved really quickly. Just cutting foam into 3 different size pieces and putting them in a pillow doesn't strike me as something that you could normally get patented. Who knows a patent attorney out there? There's something that they tell you at the patent office when your idea is too obvious, that they tell you that. They say, this is too obvious. You can't have a patent. Like, you can't just patent a brick made out of, blue concrete. This is not unique. It's not novel. So you could just paint a red brick. There's got to be something. Maybe if you made bricks out of some new material that was lighter and stronger, and as a result, it was blue, you could patent that. If you made a pillow that was filled with something, what's a problem with pillows? I've spoken about maybe an antibacterial pillow. That makes sense. It's different than a regular pillow. If you filled the filling with some sort of, antimicrobial substance that could make a pillow with a new function, a novel feature, that would give you a patent. But if anybody knows any patent attorneys, or if you are a patent attorney, send me some information on this. Look up this Mike Lindell pillow patent. Well, why are you picking on Mike? He's a conservative. No, you don't just get to show up, strap on a cross, tell people that you love Jesus, tell people that you love Donald Trump and that you're a conservative, and then run amok doing all kinds of wild crap and expect to be supported. By the way, the other thing that indicates that Mike Lindell is a dope is that if he had just calmly listened to me on the phone and said, well, thank you for sharing this with me, I'll talk to my people and take it under advisement, and hung up the phone, I wouldn't have thought about him again. I would have said, hey, I had a nice conversation with Mike Lindell and I shared some information with him. But it's interesting, these people who I call to tell them that Mary Fanning is a known liar, an idiot, drunk almost every time I speak to her, and lying, they just hang up. I'm talking about McInerney. I'm talking about Lindell. If somebody called me and said, hey, somebody that you're dealing with is lying to you, I would listen to them. And that doesn't mean that I would automatically believe them over somebody that I know and trust. But there have been enough people who have deceived me that I recognize that it's possible that anybody might. And so when people call me and say I have information about such and such, I have a process. I won't detail it completely because there's obviously social engineers who will then try to stymie that process or defeat it. But, people call me, I listen to what they say, and if the evidence that they present is credible, I look into it further. If people have been watching the show for long enough will recall that I used to have Scott Bennett on the show, and I thought Scott was a great guy. I thought he had good information. He had been to jail where he met Brad Birkenfeld, and he wrote his book about, what was the name of his book? I don't even remember. But he claimed to write this book with all this information from Brad Birkenfeld. He was a whistleblower, and he was talking about Hillary and all this stuff that she did, and talking about all kinds of stuff. And then, one day, somebody said to me, hey, Scott Bennett was involved in this trial, and here's all this information from the trial, court documents and claims that he made and things that he said. And this person told me that they had been emailing with Birkenfeld, and Birkenfeld said that Scott was a liar. I don't automatically believe that, but that was an intriguing enough collection of evidence that it was worthy of more investigation. And I got Brad Birkenfeld's phone number. I called up Birkenfeld. I got him on FaceTime, confirmed that it was him. And he said Scott Bennett is a liar. Now, is that proof that Scott Bennett is a liar? Maybe. It's certainly evidence that he is. And depending on what standard of proof we were holding him to, it may or may not be proof. But it's certainly evidence. And strong evidence is worthy of examination. And then when I called Scott to ask him about it, he acted real weird. You know, there could be some universe in which Scott had an explanation for that where perhaps Birkenfeld was lying. Perhaps this guy who sent me the information had presented it to me in such a way, if Scott had additional documents or said, yeah, I know how that looks, but X, Y, and Z. That's the thing. I don't want to jump to a conclusion, and I don't want to say that this evidence that somebody presents to me is proof necessarily, because there's a lot of complicated things that can go on. So anyway, we have a lot of evidence that suggests that Mike Lindell is an idiot at best, and perhaps even a scammer. I now have emails from Crowdsource the Truth viewers who have purchased the MyPillow, and I don't know, is there a money-back guarantee or something like that? Because this person said they wanted their money back, and they were never able to get it. That MyPillow company just blocked his phone number. The other thing that we've looked into is Mike Lindell seems to be associated with a pretty huge array of 501c3 tax-exempt charities. And Charles has often said that there are red flags for fraud with these people who run businesses and charities. And the other issue is now we're getting emails from Crowdsource the Truth viewers. I got one email. This was this person emailed Charles, and Charles was telling me about it. But this was someone who themselves had been through a rehab program. And this was quite interesting because that is actually what Crowdsource the Truth is exactly about. I'm happy to communicate with people who are polite. I'm happy to take input from people who have information if I'm wrong. You can challenge me for sure, but with facts. I don't care about your opinion. If you don't like what I said to somebody, too bad. Stop watching, cancel your sponsorship, and just go away. But your opinion of what I do, I just don't care. And your negative input, your opinion about how I should act or what I should do or who I should interview or whatever, I don't really care. I really don't. Crowdsource the Truth is about people with firsthand information sharing it through social media so that we can learn more. And here's the perfect example. So a Crowdsource the Truth viewer who has had his own success in recovery, 5 years of sobriety, sent a very detailed email about the drug rehabilitation business. This is a world that I know nothing about. No direct family members of mine, nor myself, nor any friends that I've been closely enough. I know people who have had drug problems and have gone and done those things, but I wasn't involved in putting them in the place. I wasn't involved in paying for it. I never visited anybody at one of those places. It's an area maybe that guy knows something about, but it's an area that I know nothing about. So when this person sent me an email, sent Charles this email that we were talking about, he shared a lot of information. He said there is a lot of grifting going on in that industry because a lot of people want to take advantage of the fact that it's so super difficult to get off of these addictive drugs like crack and heroin and the opiates and all that sort of stuff. So this person shared his opinion based on firsthand experience and evidence that he's seen that there's an entire industry that wants people to be addicted to drugs, that charges like $40,000 a month to go to one of those detox rehab type of places, and that there's a lot of fraud in that industry. And it started me thinking, like, well, gee, I don't know if Mike Lindell is actually a crackhead or if that's just the story that he tells us, because if you wanted to have a spectacular underdog story, being a former crackhead and coming out of it and being successful, it seems to work. A lot of people are like, oh, he's been through so much, be nice to Mike Lindell. And then if you were going to open a charity to help other people get off of crack, if you lied, and I'm not saying that he did, because I don't know if he did or didn't, but this is one scenario. Perhaps he made it up so that he could be seen as somebody who is an authority on how to get off of drugs. I really don't know. But the patent on the pillow seems weird. The fact that he's sending so much money to Fox, how do we know that My Pillow is not just a conduit for sending money to people, where whoever wants to send that money somehow sets up Mike Lindell to start that company, get a bunch of money. Charles is identifying family members of Lindell's that are involved in the companies and on the payroll, and it's not necessarily a problem with hiring your family to work for your privately owned company. But Charles described a number of ways that such a scenario could be used to send money to people for actually doing nothing. And if you are dealing with a public charity, hiring your family to run it and running it yourself are big no-nos that Charles has been over a number of times. So, I mean, again, to the people who are asking, why are you picking on Mike Lindell? I'm not picking on Mike Lindell. But if Mike Lindell is hooked up with Mary Fanning and Dennis Montgomery and McInerney and whoever it is that's trying to push this false agenda, I want to know where that's coming from, and I want to know who and what is motivating them to do that, because it is damaging to us, the people of the United States of America, as we try to get to the bottom of what went on at the Capitol on January 6th. I see that video that the Democrats show, and it's all made up of Antifa footage, Antifa journalists who were in there. How did they get right in there up to the front? Why is it all Antifa guys in there? Why don't they have James Sullivan testifying in there? Well, I hope Trump's lawyers get James Sullivan to testify, the brother of John Sullivan, the infamous Jaden X, who, so much of his footage came from that. I don't think that the Trump Hotel is going to allow me in there to record. I don't even know if they'll let me in there without being a guest of the hotel, but it seems like less security than the last time I was there. So, I really would like to see President Trump's lawyers talking about the fact that this was a prearranged event that could not have been incited by Donald Trump, because it was already planned and people were already at the Capitol attacking and rioting. And they use elements of evidence like, oh, this Proud Boy says that Donald Trump convinced him to attack the Capitol because Trump said something. Well, so what? You got one idiot. They're trying to represent that, well, the Proud Boys like Trump, and Trump said, go walk to the Capitol. So there's testimony from a pro-Trump guy. Let's see if we're allowed in. Am I allowed to go? Am I allowed to go to the bar?
Give me 1 second.
So normally in real life, you can walk to any hotel and walk in. Just talking to the camera.
Are you a reporter?
No, I'm just a guy checking out Washington, D.C. Am I not allowed to freely enter the hotel?
No, we're close to the public, as you see on the sign.
Closed to the public. Ah. The restaurant is closed?
No, it's not.
Okay, so if I go to the restaurant, I can go in.
Because I have to ask first. That's all I'm going to do.
All right, don't bother. So that's, even at the Trump Hotel, you got to ask first before you can go in. And I'm not ready to go in there and sit down. I think it's like, $100 for a steak at the Trump Hotel. So, not ready to do that, but, we're getting a good sense. By the way, isn't it Thursday in the middle of the day? And where the hell is everyone? Right? There's nobody around. And there's still a lot of people wearing masks. I just got an email from somebody earlier that, was it Montana? I think the governor of Montana is lifting the statewide mask mandates, but he makes a point of saying that localities can make their own mandates. What's up with the government mandating what we can do? What happened to laws where people vote and like we've got all this like little fiefdoms, all these kind of petty tyrants passing on down the mandates. But yeah, so the Mike Lindell issue we're going to keep looking into, because we don't just not look at somebody because they claim to be friends of the president or seem to be doing things that are alleged to be helping the president. I mean, I think that's the biggest problem, is that they've got folks infiltrating things. And you know, I've said from the beginning, what they've been doing to Donald Trump, it's the same exact thing they've been doing to me. It's like the same playbook, right? So they get a Proud Boy to say, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, when he said that, that made me want to attack the Capitol. Or they get the grand poobah of the QAnon shaman, David Lee Roth face paint, water buffalo lodge hat guy, say now he's ready to testify against Trump. So when I say they're doing the same thing, that is exactly like when they send Susan Holmes my way, Queen Tut, or Quinn Michaels, right? They hang out a little while, 2, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, not that long. And then they appear to the public to be staunch allies, regular guests on Crowdsource the Truth, a lot of good information, everybody comes to like them. You know, we get some of these stupid anonymous comments. Oh, Jason, you know, you better be careful. People aren't going to want to appear on your show. That is so frequently said by anonymous people. Oh, no one's going to want to appear on your show. First of all, I don't think that's correct. Second of all, okay, I mean, if that's the case, I'll deal with that. But what they do is, these people who get close to me, in the case of Susan Holmes and Quinn Michaels, they stage some kind of a disagreement, usually over something that doesn't make sense, that I'm left wondering, like, why is this person even mad about this? Then they erupt and they go crazy and put me in a position where I just can't have a person like that back on the show. You can't make me look ridiculous deliberately on my show and expect to come back. You can't put negative comments about me into the chat and expect me to have you back on my own show. You can do whatever you want, but you know, you can't go over to somebody's house, take a crap on the couch in the living room, and expect to ever be invited back. But what they do is, these people, they create these fights, and then they say, oh, now they're going to be the Crowdsource the Truth whistleblower, and they're going to tell you all the inside details. This is like what they did with Scaramucci, right? He was a Trump guy, and now he's against Trump. So, I mean, even people who liked him don't like him, is what they're trying to get at with that crap. Oh, now wait a minute. What happens if you try to go into Starbucks, enter the Trump Hotel from this side? I wouldn't mind having a tea right now. It's freezing. Museum and Clock Tower. What's the museum? Sushi Nakazawa. I didn't know about that. I don't think that was here last time. So we got a mask mandate in the Trump building. They're going to make you wear a mask. Let's see what it says. Facial covering required. Site closed, it says. I don't think you can get in. Yeah, it's closed. Well, maybe you can go to Starbucks. Yeah, I guess I don't really want to go to Starbucks. I just wanted to see if we could get in. But it looks like a no. Huh. So, I mean, welcome to life. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You have to call a restaurant to see if you're allowed in it. It's really bad. Oh, what do we have there? Some kind of a protest. Oh boy. I'm not really equipped for this. I didn't bring the handheld microphone, but I mean, what are these people protesting? Break? What does it say? Let's see what we got. I see yellow signs. DAPL, isn't that the Dakota Access Pipeline? Well, we'll see what they're up to. Build back fossil free. But what is this building here? The Post Office Department. Oh, wow. I did not realize that. Oh, I should see if I can speak to the postal inspector. So I guess I should have brought the other microphone. What is this building that you guys are protesting? This is?
Yep.
And so we want them to...
One of the agencies that actually controls what happens with fossil fuels, but the demand is really the administration overall.
Sorry, I don't have my better microphone here.
That's okay.
What do you think about Joe Biden ending the XL pipeline?
It's a great step, but there's a lot of pipelines that also need to be canceled, and that's one of the reasons that we're calling on him to stop all fossil fuel projects, not just that one. So right now, they started construction on Line 3, which is in northern Minnesota, which is a tar sands pipeline. They've actually called it essential services, so despite the fact that we're in the middle of COVID, they have man camps in northern Minnesota that are
What kind of camps?
Man camps, where they bring in workers from around the country and put them in,
camps?
that's what they're called, because most of the workers are men, and they put them in concentrated
So
areas.
it's racist against women, isn't it?
No, it's just that it's oil workers, so most of them are men.
Got it.
The point is that they're increasing COVID in that area dramatically.
Is that true?
There's been a massive increase. It's a small rural community that doesn't have a large population, and they've suddenly brought in people from around the country to say that it's essential to build a pipeline in the middle of a pandemic.
Huh. I heard a Canadian member of parliament say that closing that XL pipeline was going to be more damaging to the environment because the
It's
oil...
not true.
What's that?
It's just not true.
It's not true.
It's not based on any facts. Pipelines don't help the environment.
Well, he was saying that because the same amount of oil was going to travel by rail and truck.
It's not true. I mean, they're
But does closing the pipeline make people use less oil? There's still demand. I mean, this guy's argument was that...
well, tar sands oil is particularly high intensive. The process to extract the oil is even more intensive than any other process. And people have been fighting to try and shut down the tar sands and close the pipelines associated with them since it was first conceived.
Tar sand, you're saying? So shale, that's what the...
It's tar sands. It's the tar sands project.
Tar sand. It's hard to hear you with two masks on. But all right, thank you. Good luck with the demonstration.
Great.
All right, so we've got double masking going on. Hard to hear. And I didn't bring my good microphone. We've met before, haven't we?
I think so. Adam.
Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Take care. What do you know anything about what's happening?
Yeah, so the protesting for the Stop 3 initiatives. Remember what they are. Hold
Pipeline in Minnesota, she just said.
on. Yeah. Apple all fossil fuel projects. Also, they want to divest from those projects and invest into protecting frontline communities. And then in the era of fossil fuels and start and launch the emergency mobilization, emergency climate mobilization. So they want to move that into their do an executive order to say it's actually
Executive order. Everything's an executive order.
Yeah,
We're
to say
being
that's a
ruled by
problem.
decree.
Yeah.
I'll see you later, man.
thing.
Take care. Another executive order to shut down pipelines and rule this country by the stroke of a dumb Joe pen. Well, I don't know. That woman says it's not true what the Canadian guy said, but the Canadian guy, he made sense. I mean, you shut a pipeline, look at all these cars. These people are still going to be driving. I wonder how all those folks got there. I didn't really want to get into the details with them. And I agree that the environment should be protected, but instead of shutting down pipelines, why don't they go, protest at GM and tell them make your Yukon go twice as far on the same amount of gas? That to me would seem to address the issue quite a bit. Just shutting everything off and switching to electric. Charles and I have discussed this quite extensively. They're not considering the technological differences in the storage of electric energy and the complications in making electric cars. I mean, sure, we got Teslas, but they're like $100,000, and they only go like 300 or 400 miles before you got to fill them up again. And it's promising technology for the future, but I don't think it's a good idea to just use an executive order to shut off a gas pipeline. Now, I got to keep my eye. Oh boy, I think I got to head back actually, because I was trying to do this on a tight time budget to stay on schedule for the road trip. I didn't really even look at comments here. Let's see what people are saying before I head back to the car. It's very difficult to operate this phone with gloves on, and one glove got soaked. It got stuck to the outside of my car when I came out of the hotel this morning. There it was. COVID cures gunshots and motorcycle crashes. Right. So that girl's saying that COVID is on the rise in these places where they have demand camps. I'm surprised that wasn't called out for, being sexist. They should call them, Z camps or chic camps or whatever kind of camps. Still calling oil a fossil fuel. Aha, right. Doesn't Dr. Corsi say it's got nothing to do with fossils? I don't remember exactly what he had to say about that. Masks. And they had the 2 masks on. I mean, right. I don't know. I wonder. There's that study that came out from the CDC that said, you got to read these studies carefully, because it said that, okay, 1 mask is blocking, 44% of particles, but 2 masks is blocking 92%. So it was better than, 100% increase. However, that doesn't tell you anything about the efficacy in preventing the disease, because even if it's blocking 92% of the particles, if out of the 8% that gets through, 100% of that is COVID, what the hell is the point in wearing the mask? It also doesn't talk about how decreased oxygenation of the blood affects your immune system. I mean, this is a complicated thing, and although it might seem obvious to the uninformed that wearing a mask would do something, there's a lot of parameters there, and maybe it doesn't work. That study did not seem to indicate the mask's effectiveness in stopping the spread of the disease. I come back to one final thing. People have been wearing these damn masks for 11 months, and they're telling us that the problem is getting worse. I don't know how many times I've said that, but until every person realizes that fact, that's all the science that you need. It hasn't worked for 11 months. There was some study somebody showed me. Who was talking about that? Maybe it was Charles yesterday. Can't recall. I get so much information coming at me, but they were comparing the various states, New York, New Jersey, that had lockdowns to states that did not, like Florida. And this was my father telling me this. The states that did not lock down had like half the occurrence of COVID per 1,000 or million residents, whatever it was, half. So these studies can be done in such a way that you could pretty much come up with whatever result you want. And when I say that, I mean you can qualify the results, you can limit what you're looking at. I like that result. 92% of particles are blocked by wearing 2 masks. Well, that sounds good. But if those particles are blocked from coming out of your mouth, and they're carbon dioxide, you're breathing that back in. Or who knows, when are they going to tell us, you exhaling carbon dioxide, that's destroying the environment, so you got to suck it all in. Because we need to close down pipelines and stuff a sock in your mouth. I wonder if those people who are protesting the pipeline, look, I don't want to destroy communities with pipelines. I just sort of kind of want to find the most efficient way to do things that all of our lives have relied upon. I mean, unless we all want to live in caves and hunt animals and stitch our own clothing, we've kind of got this society that's based on, you get a job and you earn money, and then you buy stuff like food that somebody else is making. And, it's got to get from the farm to where you are because you're doing your job in a city or somewhere far away from the farm. And so if you start like making fossil fuels or whatever you want to call it that's coming through the pipeline, more expensive, less accessible, that has an impact. And then you say, oh yeah, money, but money is what people need to buy food. And when you lose it and you don't have food, crime goes up, people die, they can't go to the doctor, they can't eat healthy, they can't pay for their heat. So money is like the fuel that runs our society, and it is important. People need it. People in the Capitol are sitting behind a fence wasting it. They are super in love with trying to prosecute Donald Trump. Oh gosh, very convenient timing to be here right outside the Department of Justice. They're celebrating 150 years of injustice. Department of Justice. It's a joke. They should change the name. All these people who have the job of standing outside these stupid buildings and protecting the criminals inside, they're wasting their time. These are just such rotted out to the core. Who is that? Nathan Hale. I'm sure people watching know more about Nathan Hale than I do. But there he is. A lot of statues in Washington, D.C. I guess everybody's home. I mean, it's cold, but it's not the coldest day ever. And it's slightly rainy, but it's not blizzarding. I would imagine there'd be people out. I don't know. Well, anyway, I don't know if I mentioned this to people the other day, but you can watch Crowdsource the Truth on lbry.tv library. Go on there and search for Crowdsource the Truth, and you can watch all the YouTube shows. They're on there for free if people don't like YouTube or don't want to support Google or be tracked by Google. You can also get it on BitChute. Go to bitchute.com and look for Crowdsource the Truth. Subscribe to those channels if you could, please. I would like to grow those a bit. And I've been mentioning for the past several days, right, I was thanking the sponsors before. This is what I wanted to mention. So huge thank you to the sponsors. Wouldn't be able to do this road trip. Wouldn't be able to carry on with the show without your generous sponsorship. I do appreciate that. Everybody who is with me on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. There was an unfortunate circumstance last year where we did some videos that apparently violated the terms of service of Vimeo. Whatever it was that we said was, community guidelines for Vimeo. I had mistakenly thought they were less censorship oriented than YouTube. But they knocked out like a whole huge number. They deleted the whole Vimeo channel, knocked out all the videos up until then. So I was able to start a new channel, and I made the mistake of re-uploading those old videos. And then I learned that re-uploading videos that have already been deleted is also grounds for getting deleted. So create a new channel that all the new sponsor exclusive shows go out on. These guys are guarding the Department of Justice. The Department of Injustice. Wow, pretty nice in there. But anyway, so after the Vimeo channel got knocked out for the second time, I started this effort to create a Crowdsource the Truth alternative to Vimeo, not to offer to the public in general, because that would just be way too expensive and complicated to create and to run. But I just wanted to be able to have a spot to put Crowdsource the Truth videos so that sort of thing would not happen with Vimeo. And we now have that in the process of beta testing the new Crowdsource the Truth video server. And a lot of people have been emailing me saying, hey, I want to get in on this beta test. How do I do it? And all you got to do is become a sponsor on subscribestar.com. You can watch the Robert David Steele's anti-speech strategy episodes. More of those coming soon. All you have to do is be a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And you just scroll down. As you go down, you get to the older videos. More and more are being added. Now, it's going to be complicated for me to continue to add them while I'm on the road, because I don't have my, fiber optic internet. It'll take a long time to upload those videos, but there are a lot of them there, and I'm going to keep adding them, and eventually the whole entire legacy library will be restored. Now, it doesn't yet work on Patreon. And that has to do with the way the Patreon website works. We're trying to get Patreon to whitelist the video server so that it can be used. But for now, it's exclusive to Subscribestar, and it's the older videos. So sponsors on either channel get access to all the new sponsor-exclusive videos. And people who are with us on Subscribestar.com, you are helping to make sure that the new video server is going to work. Now, I wish there was a way to just reverse the route that I took to get here. Oh, there we go. That'll be done easily. So this will tell me where to walk. I always get lost in DC. I could get lost walking out of a paper bag, but I think I'm going the right direction now. What is past is prologue, it says right here. This is the National Archives. It's closed. You can't, even Scooter Libby couldn't stuff things in his underwear if he wanted to right now from there. Okay, we got Grand Army Plaza. Oh, yeah. So wait a minute. So they're seeking information about this guy who's the suspected pipe bomber. And I was talking before about how all you really need to do is get a bunch of plants to do this stuff. They love the Nike Airs. Searching for people based on sneakers. Come on, that could be anybody. He could have bought those sneakers that day and thrown them away now. Is this a pipe bomb, or is this just an egg timer with a pipe on it? This scared Ocasio-Cortez to death. Right, see, I heard that they were placed at the RNC and the DNC, and maybe I'm ignorant of how the Capitol complex works, but are those things within the Capitol complex? I wouldn't think so. There's just so much pure nonsense being put out. That's the reason why I started communicating with Mike Lindell. I'm trying to counteract nonsense. And I think that's part of the reason why social engineers hate me and hate me so much. This is another thing that occurred to me. Very early in the process of doing Crowdsource the Truth, I was approached by a guy, Frank Bacon. I'm told his name is Tyrone Simpson, but I don't even know if that's true. Anyway, so this guy was like, "Oh, Jason, you got a great YouTube channel. Why don't you put it on our social media thing, Steam it, and you'll earn cryptocurrency." And I didn't want to do it because when I looked into Steam it didn't seem trustworthy, and I'm not. These guys love to suggest things. Why doesn't Jason do this? I like doing my ideas, and I'm, not to say that I'm totally closed off to suggestions, but when people make suggestions, it's like, why don't you do that? I'll do what I'm doing and you do that. But what they wanted to do was they wanted to corral me into a social media platform where they control the money. I mean, look, this is what YouTube does, right? You get onto YouTube, you start making videos about hypermiling your hybrid, or how the autopilot in your Tesla works, or secret hidden features of your iPhone, how to build a PC, what the best new video games are, best new cameras are. You do those things, makeup, toys. You do those videos all day, and you're going to be rewarded by YouTube with millions of subscribers and money from advertising. See, anything that is advertiser driven, those advertisers control the content, whether they're directly telling them what to do or not. Oh, that's interesting. This is the FTC right here. This is another place that George's brother has sent letters to alleging that I'm doing, things that I'm not doing, but he's just trying to get me into trouble. And the reason why is because without the ability to financially control what somebody is saying, I mean, we've spoken about this before. When Tucker Carlson went to Vegas, somebody pretty quickly said, stop doing that. And I think Tucker Carlson probably makes millions of dollars a year. So when they say stop doing that and he doesn't stop, they say, okay, if you don't stop doing that, we're going to stop paying you. And, he's got kids and a house and expenses, so he needs money. So he's likely to listen to that advice. I really think that the number one thing that social engineers hate about me is that I become financially independent from these systems that they control by creating this sponsor exclusive segments and allowing viewers to sponsor the show on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. So it's, and they want to say whatever they can say to disparage the effort of making great videos around the country, around the world, doing things that nobody else on YouTube is doing in terms of the equipment and the guests and, just trying to make a really unique and professional show that's frankly different than anything that anybody has done on television. Why are the Emmys spending so much money to sue me? I haven't really been keeping people up to speed on that, but my illegal bill fighting the Emmys is huge, soaring. And I'm using one lawyer who is, not part of a giant, firm. He's just an independent guy recommended by a friend and, giving me a good rate for New York City. These guys, the Emmys, every time we've had a conference with the judge or whatever, they have 3 lawyers on the phone coming from this giant DC law firm, Finnegan and somebody. I mean, they're spending a ton of money because they don't like the image of the coronavirus graphic. People can still see they're fighting to get it taken down. So while the court case is pending, you can see it on Patreon. Can you see it on Patreon? No, you can see it on Subscribestar. Sorry about that for people on Patreon. If there's anybody who's on Patreon and wants to switch to Subscribestar, all you have to do is cancel your Patreon subscription and create a new Subscribestar subscription. And if you're in on the annual subscription on Patreon, I think you can cancel that. Certainly if there's anybody who is due any money back as a result of switching, I will be available to help you with that. Just send me an email on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.com. But this is critically important. And so people who are disparaging the business model of Crowdsource the Truth, they're doing that because they realize it's powerful. And it allows me to keep going. And it allows me to enable, it's not just about me being sponsored, it's because I've created this sort of decentralized network of sponsored shows. The Moriartys, Lee Stranahan, David Hawkins, John Cullen. There are shows that have come and gone. Ole decided when he moved his family to Bali that it was time to move on from our show, and he didn't say if he was going to want to revisit it in the future or not. A lot of people ask me that, but he's in Bali doing his thing and got a lot of complicated stuff going on moving his family there. Mike Moore told me he was taking December off. Haven't heard anything from him since then, so a lot of people ask me what's going on with Mike Moore. Will he return? You got to ask Mike Moore that. I don't know the answer to that question. If I had to guess, it seems like no. He seems to have canceled the show. He just kind of ghosted. But there will be shows added in the future, I think. Right now, with the road trip happening, I think having less sponsor-exclusive shows works for the schedule. And there's still tons of shows every day, unique shows like this here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be going someplace else tomorrow that hopefully people will find interesting. And, it's going to be a new, sort of a new season of Crowdsource the Truth. Maybe we'll start a new sponsor-exclusive show. Actually, Tara Sapansky was back in the news yesterday. The NYPD have finally done something, and they do deserve commendation for this. They arrested the people who put the dirty baby diaper in Tara Sapansky's face. We got people who are bent out of shape that you're breathing air, and they think it's okay to shove a dirty diaper in somebody's face. Talk about toxic, biohazardous waste. That is just so far from cool. I'm like without words, but congratulations to the NYPD actually doing that. And I'm so glad that perhaps Tara is on her way to getting justice. And perhaps this will send a message. I don't know. I think it's just a small scratch of the surface, but it's basically let people know that you can't be a maniac and shove diapers in people's faces. So I think I'm approaching the Capitol from a slightly different, am I? Maybe I'm imagining that. DC is very confusing for me. No, I think I need to go to the right. Yes, remember this crazy piece of artwork. Yeah, so by sponsoring the show, you really are helping to fight social engineers, because I've become convinced that the social engineers control independent news through sponsorships, right? First it was YouTube. And, YouTube ads we heard before I started Crowdsource the Truth, I used to hear Luke Radowski and all these guys say, oh, my video got demonetized. And it just seemed obvious to me that monetizing on YouTube was a waste of time and really not a way that you could build a business and count on the future. So then I noticed a lot of people were getting kind of like external sponsors, where they would do those old school kind of ads, where they say like, hey, get this or that VPN or some, storable desiccated food or whatever. So, those things are fine. I don't particularly like VPNs. I am really dealing with some demanding internet applications, and I need the latency to be as close to zero as it can possibly be. And when you start adding a VPN, you're trading off security for performance. And also, by the way, I don't trust the security of a VPN. Who knows who's operating that VPN and what they're doing with your information? I just don't trust it. And I don't want to slow down my internet, so I don't ever use them. But I noticed that VPNs and storable food, there's a small number of companies that are offering those things, or at least the ones that are being advertised on people's YouTube shows. And I just wonder if somebody had a YouTube show that was being sponsored for, 10 grand or something, and the food company said, oh yeah, we don't like you bothering Mike Lindell. Leave Mike Lindell alone, or we're not going to sponsor your show with the desiccated food or the VPN. Right? So there are people who send me emails and say, I'm a sponsor and you're a jerk to Mike Lindell. And to those people I say, here's your $2, here's your $5. Your sponsorship is terminated, and thanks for your input. And by the way, that was another reason why I wanted to implement this micro sponsorship program, because when I was a cinematographer and a director and running 21st Century 3D, I've mentioned this on air before, one of the very last films I directed was a thing called Daydreams of Dubai that decided they didn't want to pay. And I was left holding the bag for a huge amount of money. And I just said to myself, I'd rather have 100,000 people giving me $1 each than one person giving me 100,000, because then nobody has that much control. This person who owes you 100,000 could say, well, we didn't like that scene in the desert, and we want a discount on this, and we know we said we wanted you to edit it like this and that, but now we want you to do all this other stuff. And they're holding that 100,000 over your head. When somebody owes you $1 and says, I don't like what you said to Mike Lindell, you say, here's your $1, go off and enjoy not liking it. So by becoming a sponsor of Crowdsource the Truth, you're really helping in so many ways, allowing trips like this to happen, allowing the whole show to take place, every single piece of equipment here at this point, yeah, I would say pretty much was purchased with money that was provided by sponsors. So you are keeping the show going, even if you just want to watch on YouTube or BitChute or Library or any of those things. Becoming a sponsor helps keep them going, even though it's free to post things on those channels. It's not free to go to the places you need to go to get the things to post. And it's also not free to get sued. That costs money. So for people who really want to help counteract the lawfare, you can go to crowdsourcethetruth.com, scroll down past that preview video, and you'll see the Counter Lawfare Fund. There's a bunch of different options, and I'm certainly not pressuring anyone. I don't want anyone to ever sponsor the show for an amount of money that puts them under any kind of financial strain. But if you are a person who has a lot of money and wants to sponsor the show, the Counter Lawfare Fund is a great way to do it, because there's a bunch of options in there that allow you to send gift subscriptions to people and have annual subscription. You can, of course, become a month-to-month sponsor on Subscribestar or Patreon. I'm getting closer to the parking garage where I parked here, so this video will end soon. I'm a little bit late for my departure. I see a statue over there that probably somebody would want to knock down. It looks like some sort of indigenous person, and I think that no matter what a statue is of, there's always somebody who doesn't like it. It's kind of in the woods there. I don't know if you can see it. And here's another one of these scooters that just gets left sitting around on the street. Lime. It just doesn't seem like the proper way to run something like that, but what do I know about scooters? Have people noticed that the walk, don't walk signs, you get a lot more time to cross the street? I mean, you could crawl across the street on your lips in 45 seconds. And by the way, there's no cars coming because there's a giant fence here through which we can see the Capitol. All right. Oh yeah, there is one thing over here that I noticed on my way out of the parking garage, that we can cap off the thing here. So these big government buildings here, these things are like bunkers. At first I thought this was the FBI building. It looks like it was designed by the same person. But Voice of America is inside there. And this social engineering, it's been going on for a long time. It wasn't invented, at first implemented on YouTube. These are well-established tactics to control people, to control what they think is true. This is like mass psychological manipulation, gaslighting. So these institutions are extremely important to the people that want to do those things. And we're going to see something very interesting on this sign over here when I approach it. I've spoken a lot about Elmer Davis, who was the director of the War Information Office, which I allege, when they disbanded it after World War II, that was 1947 or something like that, 1947 to 1949, there was a lot of intelligence agency activity in the United States. And, you know, understandably so. People were shaken by World War II. It was an amazing international event that nothing like it had ever happened before, and people wanted more security. They wanted to prevent the rise of another Hitler-type figure. I got the light. What's that guy yelling about? See that? You come to a city, you take crap. So here's what I wanted to show everybody. This is the Wilbur J. Cohen Federal Building. Look at the address, 330 Independence Avenue. And it's the Voice of America, Broadcasting Board of Governors. So, I mean, aren't they the ones that are broadcasting propaganda all over the place? I don't know. I'm just saying. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me on that little walk around DC. This was really meant not to be an all-day affair, but just a little catch-up to see what's going on with our nation's capital under martial law. For the record, I never supported that idea of Trump starting martial law. It sounds like a terrible idea to me. Oh my gosh, that looks like a bad way to get out of a car. You're going to smash your fingers in the door, lady. She made it. Did not like the idea of martial law. Never supported QAnon or anything that thing said. Anybody wanting to write an email to me about how I should read the drops and follow it or whatever, just don't even send it. Don't send that. I don't want your input. I'm not interested in that. Not interested in you defending that. Just don't. And with Mike Lindell, I mean, look, if you want to send me emails about he's a nice guy, I'm really not interested in your opinion of Mike Lindell. The emails that I'm being sent about Mike Lindell that are interesting are emails with evidence, companies that he owns, charities that he's on the board of, affidavits from his wives, his ex-wives, one of which who claimed he kicked her in the back so hard it broke her rib. This is not a nice guy. And I mean, I saw on his records there a conviction. Now, is that correct? We need to run that down. I'd like to find some more details on that conviction for domestic abuse. But when we look at that piece of evidence, in combination with the evidence that is an affidavit from his wife, this is pretty damning evidence. And although it's not proof, it doesn't look good for Mike Lindell. And I'm not on to him because he beat up his wives or he created charities that are frauds or any of that. I contacted him because he is one of the people who's promoting Mary Fanning. And I think there are people who are well-meaning, good-intentioned people who get tricked by Mary Fanning. And when I call them and tell them, hey, there's evidence and information that causes me to believe she's deliberately lying, if you don't want to hear that, then you probably don't want to know the facts about what she's talking about. And if you don't want to know the facts, then you aren't helping and you might get a phone call. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Please become a sponsor. And if you're in the Northeast, maybe stay inside. It's cold and crappy.